These words are from Reverend Rick Hoyt. Go forth, because we are always going forth from somewhere, going from our homes, our childhoods, going from our cities and countries, going from innocence to experience to enlightenment, going into mystery and questions, going into the desert, going to the other side. Go forth, leave behind the comfort and community of one place, head into the anxiety and loneliness of another. Carry with you the love and laughter of this place, and let it light your way. Carry with you the wisdom you learned and the good memories. May they give you strength for your journey. Now we will be singing our opening hymn, Open, Rejoice, and Come In, number 361 in your gray hymnal. Please rise in spirit and or body if you feel so moved.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Please remain risen as we do our chalice lighting and then our covenant in Spanish and in English. Do you want to light our chalice? The chalice lighting words are from Reverend Louis E. Van Leer. You might have to actually pick that up. We light this chalice not because we must, but because we may. We light this chalice not because we have the truth, because we each come bearing and seeking many truths. Thank you. We light this chalice in connection across culture, distance, class, and language. We light this chalice that our religion may be a beacon of light, hope, and justice. We light this chalice to kindle our hearts and our minds. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is a sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, thus do we covenant. La doctrina de esta iglesia es el amor. La búsqueda de la verdad es su sacramento y la oración es su servicio. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar el conocimiento en libertad, servir a la humanidad en comunión, Este es nuestro pacto. You can sit now. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. We are happy that you're here, and not only in person but also online. Emerson Unitarian Universalist Church is named after the Unitarian minister, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and we are a diverse religious community that has been a part of the West Valley for over 65 years. I'm Melissa Marote. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm honored to serve as your worship associate this morning. Reverend Matthew McHale is not here today, but will return from vacation soon. And I'll introduce our guest minister, Reverend Dr. Betty Stapleford, momentarily. Now, please just take a moment to make sure that your phones are silenced. We welcome all of you to our service and hope that here at Emerson you'll find a passion to create change and gain comfort through connection during our service today and during our coffee hour breakout rooms online and in person after the service. This is our first Sunday potluck, so please stay and enjoy it. And if you didn't bring anything to share, feel free to help and clean up. Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religion characterized by a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Unitarian Universalists assert no creed, but are unified by their shared search for spiritual growth, guided by a dynamic living tradition. We welcome all of you on this journey of spiritual growth. This morning, let us remember that the land we stand on is the traditional land of the Tongva, Kizh, Chumash, and Tatavian peoples, past and present. Let us honor the land itself and the people who have stewarded it across generations, that we might learn and become better stewards ourselves. Please sign our guest book so that you can get on our email list to get more information about upcoming events and to strengthen connections here. Also take a moment to write any joys or sorrows in the link in the chat, or our virtual book of life, or in the book of life near the piano, if you want them shared later in the service. Check out our calendar online as well to find out when things like when the Environmental Justice Ministry meets, which is next Sunday at 1, or get involved with racial justice discussions over Zoom. Now to our guest minister, Reverend Dr. Betty Stapleford. Reverend Betty, she goes, followed her call to ministry after 28 years as a high school English and theater teacher in Delaware, and graduated with an MDiv degree from the Claremont School of Theology in California. She then became the minister of the Conejo Valley UU Fellowship, now Chalice UU Fellowship, in Thousand Oaks in 1998. After serving there for 12 years, she retired and was named their minister emerita. For the next 5 years, she served the UU Church of the Verdugo Hills in La Crescenta. And now she is the affiliate community minister for social justice at the Universalist Unitarian Church in Santa Paula. So much for retirement. We look forward to hearing more from you today. Now let's just take a few moments to greet our neighbors.
Good morning. Thank you. Very nice to meet you.
So now, do you want to introduce me the story, or do you want me just to take over there?
I think maybe you take over because I don't know anything about the story.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
I go ahead and.
All right. I'd like to share a story with you this morning, and this is my ferret friend, Freddie. Ferret friend, Freddie. Okay, never mind. But I'd like to let you know that even though ferrets are illegal as pets in California, I feel very fortunate to have received Freddie from my daughter, who gave me this nice, but you are nice, you're really fine, this ferret for Mother's Day. Now, I don't know any of the other mothers of you who can say that your offspring gave you ferrets for Mother's Day, but I was really very pleased because they know I really like to tell stories. And even though I'm not fluent in ferret, I was able to find out a few things from Freddie about his life before he came into my life. Some of you may know that ferrets are very mischievous, and I'll have to tell you that Freddie is certainly one of that group. They are called little thieves. Actually, their name means little thieves in Latin, and that's because they find incredible objects that they really like, and they take away and hide them. And I'm really hopeful that Freddie did that with my sunglasses because I can't find them. And maybe when we get home, he'll help me find them, so that's good. But in Freddie's previous life, he really enjoyed his time with a family who was very attached to him. And so he decided that maybe, because ferrets, by the way, are very loyal to their keepers, and he decided that maybe he should stop stealing things because people were getting upset in the family where he lived. And so he decided in a very unferret-like way to stop stealing things, and in fact, help them by finding things for them and bringing them back. And so he shared that with me, and it seems to me that's kind of a metaphor for the way that we can change our lives, that we can reach out to the people we love and care about and do things that make their lives just a little happier. And so I know Freddie would love to meet you during the time after the service. I will introduce him to you, and I'm sure he will like you very, very much and won't steal any of your stuff. So, learning from Freddie, I would like to wish you all great love and joy in your life, and that you will not lose very many things.
And now we'll do our UU affirmation. We are Unitarian, Universalist, a people of open minds, loving hearts, and welcoming hands. These offering words are by Victoria Weinstein. This congregation is a theologically diverse religious community with membership open to all who are in accordance with our principles, mission, and values. We are a welcoming congregation to people of all sexual orientations, and we unconditionally welcome any and all of you to our community of mutual caring and serious intent to grow as spiritual and moral beings. Our congregation is entirely self-governed by a democratic process. One of the privileges of our free church tradition is to provide all of the financial support from our many ministries from among ourselves. Generosity, therefore, is one of the spiritual values that we recognize as central to our personal and our institutional well-being. You are now invited to participate in the blessing of giving as the ushers come among you to accept the gifts of the congregation. And you can also donate through, I think it's called the Breeze app now. Is that correct? Okay. And you can even set up a monthly donation, as I've recently done, to make it a little bit more convenient. Thank you very much.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Now let us join in a time of meditation and prayer with words written by the Reverend Kathleen McTeague. Into this home we bring our hunger for awakening. We bring compassionate hearts and a will toward justice. Into this home we bring the courage to walk on after hard losses. Into this home we bring our joy and gratitude for ordinary blessings. By our gathering here, we bless this place. In its shelter, we know ourselves to be blessed. Now let's spend a moment of silence, embracing those things that we want to hold on to and the paths in which we want to pass, grateful for this place and this time. Amen and blessed be.
I want to keep this going. So let's take a moment to anchor down even more. Uncross your legs, get comfortable where you're sitting, somewhat upright. Soften your gaze or close your eyes. Breathe in through your nose. Hold that breath for a moment. And breathe out through your mouth. Relax the little muscles around your jaw, your eyes. Relax your shoulders. Feel your sit bones sinking into your chair. Feel the earth underneath your feet. What are two things that you can hear in this moment? What are you noticing? Let's take one more deep breath in through the nose. Hold and release. Every one of us is a part of a web of life that makes us one with all humanity, one with all the universe. We are grateful for this connection as it strengthens us all. Each week we share our joys and concerns. And you can also write them in the chat, and I'll read them as well. Some sorrows are also too painful to speak aloud. If you are holding someone in your heart this morning and you want to send them healing energy and loving kindness, you can write their name in the chat. And after I'm done reading these joys and sorrows, we'll call out their names after I ring the singing bowl. In the physical book of life, we have happy belated birthday to Kevin Matthey. And we wish, and also healing to your mother who had a fall. And Brian Nelson writes to thank everyone for their support in the ongoing labor actions in Los Angeles. It has been powerful to participate in rallies and marches, not only for the WGA and SAG, AFTRA, but also the Teamsters, Unite Here Local 11, and SEIU. Sandra Russell was in a car accident. Her and her cats need the help of the pastoral care people. Eloise writes, prayers for my friend Terry, who needs back surgery. Since Lucas is not here, someone has written on his behalf, live to love to live, life is beautiful. Let me just look really quickly. I do not see anything in the virtual book of life. My goodness, I think I lost my Zoom link. Let me just look here real fast. If there's anything in the chat. I'm not seeing anything in the chat. So now I'm going to ring the singing bowl. If there's anyone you would like to send loving kindness to, healing, now's the time. Kevin Matthey, Cynthia Dean, Karen Matthews, Ola. May the arms of this community hold us. May the love and compassion we experience here ripple out beyond these walls, touching all who are in need. And now, a sung meditation, and we can try around. It is number 396 in your gray hymnal. I know this rose will open. And so perhaps what we can do is sing it all together at one, and then we'll say, I know this rose will open, and then I know this rose will open, I know this rose will open, I know this rose will open. Okay, is that right? Try it? All right. Okay, so all together.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. 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 I know my fear will burn away.
first time for everything. Thank you.
We talked about that before the service began as a way to fail forward if necessary, and to be okay with that. It's always a challenge and an opportunity. I'd like to read a reading that was written by Stacy Abrams, who ran for the governorship of Georgia and did not win. But she writes, and this is at the top of your order of service as an inspirational reading, so you could follow along if you want to look at it. When we show up, act boldly, and practice the best ways to be wrong, we fail forward. No matter where we end up, we've grown from where we began. And I'm really glad to be with you this morning. I haven't been at Emerson for a while, and it's always a pleasure. And I'm particularly glad to be here with you to share a sermon about something I need to remember. So I thank you for listening, and hopefully you will discover some things as well. Showing up. Half of every action is just showing up. And I'd like to ask you this morning if there has been anything in your life, I'm sure there are many things, but maybe one really important one where you just showed up. You didn't know what was going to happen. You weren't sure whether it was going to make any difference at all, but you just showed up. How did that feel for you? What was it that you remember about that experience? I'd like to tell you a story about a young man that I met when I was visiting at the Adelanto Detention Center. Many of you perhaps know that there are something like 200 detention centers in the United States, 7 of them in California, where people who come here seeking asylum or people who do not have documents are placed. And we'd like to think it's for a short time, but I went for about 6 years to visit people at Adelanto, which is about probably 2 hours from here in the Mojave Desert. And I met a number of really, really interesting people. Many of them had been there for 2 or 3 or 4 or even 5 years, trying to earn their way into legal status. And if there's nothing you remember about this morning but this, remember that these are not illegal aliens. These are undocumented people. But the particular young man that I'd like to tell you about this morning, his name was Basile, and he was from Cameroon. Much of the work that I do in social justice in the congregation in Santa Paula and out in the larger world is related to immigration. This young man had spent most of his life, his adult life, in conflict against the government. I don't know how many of you know much about Cameroon. I didn't when I met him. But when the French left Cameroon, they left the French-speaking Cameroonians in charge. And they have unfortunately made life very, very, very difficult for the Anglophiles, kind of a reversal of a lot of places. I asked this young man one time, I said, well, don't you speak French? He said, yes, but they can tell. So the fact is that he spent a lot of his life fighting against injustice. And the result of that, his father before him also participated. his father was killed and his family home was burned to the ground. And ultimately, he felt he simply could not remain. He had to leave. And so he came to this country, traveling the usual route up through South America, through Mexico, and entered at the border, turned himself in as an asylum seeker, and when I met him, he had been there for almost 2 years. He came to the U.S., and I visited with him in the detention center, and back then, we were able to actually sit fairly close and have conversations. We could even shake hands or give hugs if that seemed appropriate. Now they have released many of the people from the detention center at Adelanto, and I went back a couple of weeks ago, and now you have to sit about 6.5 or 7 feet away from the person you're talking to, and you can't touch at all. It's a very different experience. But this young man came and he really, really wanted to he had a brother in Maryland, and he really wanted to be able to stay here where it was safe. But after 2 years, he was deported back to Cameroon, where he did not get his identification papers for close to 3 years. Because if you're French-speaking, and this is really interesting to me, if you're French-speaking, you get your papers within a couple of months. But he did not. And of course, he couldn't really stop himself from protesting. And so I got a WhatsApp text from him after he had been there for a few years. And he said, "I'm traveling." And I'm going, "Okay, you're traveling. Where are you going?" "I'm coming to the United States because I hear that Biden has made some changes in the immigration process." And I'm saying to myself, if I could have, he was at that point in Costa Rica. So I didn't feel like I could say, "Go back." And later I discovered that he in fact had escaped because his life was in danger. And something he did not know, I was in contact with his brother, something he did not know was they had taken his mother into custody because they couldn't find him. I was convinced that he had made a terrible mistake coming back, that he had certainly shown up, he had acted boldly, and this was not going to work. But to my surprise, he got here, once again placed in a different detention center, Otay Mesa near San Diego. And we were in communication, and I was able to connect with a friend of mine who knew a pro bono lawyer who could help him. And lo and behold, he was released to his brother's custody in Maryland. He still doesn't have papers, and he left a wife and young son back in Cameroon. But he is safe and now can try to earn some measure of, we're not even talking about citizenship yet, we're talking about getting a green card. So I talked to him the other day, and he said, well, he had another hearing in several weeks, and he was hopeful that something would work out. So do we call that a failure? Well, probably too soon to tell. But he learned some things in the process. He learned that he couldn't really fight without legal counsel. He learned that he had to get out of the place where he was, else both he and his family might have been in more danger. He learned that having a friend or friends in this country could give him support. And so I'd say he failed forward. He's learned some things, as we do on occasion through our failures. And now I hope. I certainly am sending him my prayers and my thoughts and my energy. And what a wonderful thing WhatsApp is. I didn't even know it existed. I learned that from some of these detainees who were deported. So as a person who has reached her 40th birthday for the second time, I showed that I could learn something new and that I could move ahead and find new things. Why is it that we're afraid to act boldly? We're afraid that something terrible will happen. We play small because, we want to be perfect. And I've heard that. That is one of the signs of white supremacy culture, that we want to be perfect. We don't want to fail at things. And I'm reminded of a quote by Marianne Williamson, who wrote, "Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. But our playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you." So I'd like to ask you to think about a time when you wanted to stand tall. You wanted to act boldly. And ask you the question, did you do it? Or did your fears overpower you? And if so, why or why not? We've all been at that point where, I could do that, but if I do, I might be embarrassed. Or I might not succeed. And then I would feel really ashamed. I think about the song that, and I don't know how many of you, I'm a great fan of Emma's Revolution. And they were, if some of you went to GA or watched them on the internet, you heard them sing, "I'm going to keep on moving forward." If you know the words, let's just sing one verse. Gonna keep on moving forward. Gonna keep on moving forward. Gonna keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Now, I know that doesn't sound like Emma's Revolution, but the ideas are there. Another quote by Andy Warhol. "They always say time changes things, but you actually have to change them yourself." And so, acting boldly. And I'm not going to say it's not fearful. I can't remember a time when I've not been afraid of acting boldly. Back in the 60s, when I was marching with the civil rights movement and sitting in and doing various things, I was afraid every single time. My mother was even more afraid that I was going to be arrested. I wasn't worried about that. I just didn't want to fail somehow to make a difference. So what does failing forward really mean? Learning from our experiences, learning from our mistakes, and those of other people. You notice I quote a lot of people because I think a lot of people have recognized this. Those of you who know Brene Brown know that she has written numerous books that are very inspiring. And here's a quote: "There's no innovation and creativity without failure, period." And a quote from a less famous person, my husband Tom, who is here this morning, who said, "If you've never made a mistake, you've never learned a damn thing." So what would it take to act boldly? Not to worry about failure and say, I'm not going to do it because I have to. I'm going to do it because I can and I must. Some of you have probably heard this quotation from, it's often been attributed to Mother Teresa. It was actually written by Kent Keith. "People are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you're successful, you will win some false friends and some true enemies. Succeed anyway. If you're honest and frank, people may cheat you. Be honest and frank anyway. What you spend years building, someone could destroy overnight. Build anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, they may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today, people will often forget tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be good enough. Give the best you've got anyway. So the results, either positive or negative, are not the end. And here's another truth: we are not alone. We don't have to do this work all by ourselves. We can find companions, a beloved community, an opportunity to join with others in showing up, acting boldly, sometimes failing forward. I don't know if you've ever read a book, and they're mostly children's books, but sometimes not, where you're given several alternate endings of a book, and you can choose which one you like best, or the one that you think sounds most logical. Well, we can't always choose in life. The endings come as they do, but to say, I'm going to make that choice. I'd like to tell you one more story before I close. It's about a local situation. I live in Thousand Oaks, and a short while ago, and I don't know whether Canoga Park has done this or not, but we just were called to change our voting for the city council into districts. And so a number of people submitted maps, and there was a lot of discussion of the maps, and there were meetings for people to come. Not as many people who showed up, and I asked someone, why don't more people show up to these meetings? And someone said a little cynically, because they really don't care. But there was a group of us who decided we really, really wanted to show up at the city council meeting, where they were going to determine which map was going to be chosen. And the idea of the maps was to give representation to people who were marginalized in these various areas. And we looked at all the maps, and a group of us decided there was one particular map that we thought did that most effectively. So we showed up at the city council meeting, not once, but twice. We invited some first-generation Latino students who were in a group that we were sponsoring to come and speak as well, and they did. Pretty gutsy thing for them to do. And we spoke, and we thought we were really being incredibly powerful. And at the end of the evening, the second evening, when the vote was actually being taken, there were 30 people who spoke in favor of a particular map. And the city council of 5 voted for another one. In a democracy in action, I guess. So we showed up, we acted boldly, we thought, and we failed. And what I'd like to think, now there's nothing we can really do now because the vote has been taken, 3 out of 5, but to learn what it is that we might have done differently, to encourage these students to see that they did not speak in vain, because they were really depressed. They had been told that, this is the way democracy works and we're going to show up, and they, of course, expected that we would win. But to say, what is it that we can do now? Not just sit down. So there have been letters to the editor and conversations that we've had, and gearing up for the election in 2024 for the new city council members. Should be an interesting election. We learned some things about the folks that were on the city council that we didn't know before. We don't know how it's going to come out. But I think that if we learn from our mistakes, our failures, we don't know what the results will be. But it can make a world of difference for us, for others, for the communities in which we live. And so I encourage you to take Stacy Abrams' words to heart and to recognize that there is something we can do. And I hope you will find a way to do that in your life. So I'd like to invite you to sing together hymn number 119 in your gray hymnal. Once to every soul and nation. And okay, thank you. With gusto.
Once to every soul and nation comes the moment to decide. In the strife of truth with falsehood, for the good or evil side, then to stand with truth is noble, when we share its wretched cross, ere what cause from fame and profit, and 'tis prosperous to be just. Though the cause of evil prosper, yet 'tis truth alone is strong. Though its portion be the scaffold, and upon the throne be wrong, then it is the brave one chooses, while the coward stands aside, till the multitude makes virtue of the faith they have denied.
And now our benediction and the extinguishing of our chalice. As we go from this service, may we take with us the courage to show up when we're needed, to act with boldness that cannot be stopped, and to learn all that we can from whatever the outcome may be. Blessed be, may it be so, and amen. And now we extinguish the chalice of our Unitarian Universalist tradition with these words by Reverend Elizabeth Sell Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.